Hey, it's Samantha Hartley with the Profitable Joyful Consulting Podcast. This season, we've been talking about business performance. And today, I have a special guest who is going to help me to talk a little bit more about data and how we can use data in something as amorphous seeming as our content and content marketing. And so she's going to talk about SEO, search engine optimization, and using that in your content marketing. So I want to welcome my special guest and my awesome client, Pamela Foley. Pam Foley is the owner of a successful data-driven SEO copywriting agency, AOU Creative Group. She's an Amazon bestselling author and Entrepreneur.com contributor. A former attorney, Pam and her team help B2B service businesses generate leads and sell more using persuasive storytelling and data-backed decision-making. She has just launched her Social Selling for Salespeople program, where they help salespeople and their teams learn how to use LinkedIn to build their pipelines. At home, Pam is an avid reader, a yogi, a mom, and a doodle parent. You might even hear that doodle do a little shake-off later in the podcast. Welcome, Pam. So share with us a story of somebody that you have helped from, what things were like for them before, and then what you did for them, and then how things went after that.
Sure. One of my favorite stories is with a software company that we've worked for a couple years now. And when they began, they were posting blogs and doing some social media, but very much some social media just on their own accounts. And they were posting blogs, but the truth is that they weren't optimizing those for SEO, and they weren't measuring the blogs that succeeded. So they didn't know what was working and what wasn't. So when we came in, we did an audit first to find out what was working and what wasn't. And all of the things I just listed were definitely not working. And then began a strategy and sort of our 5-step strategy that we always use. So we identified their ideal client and got really clear about who they're talking to, which was big news for them. They were talking to everybody before. And then, right, yes. And then we started social selling with them and creating a strategic plan for their LinkedIn campaigns and really creating a brand on LinkedIn that they didn't have before. And then we really had an SEO and blog strategy that we created. So we do 2 blogs for them a month that are SEO optimized, and some webinars and articles that also go on their website. But what's important about that is that because we were super clear with who they are talking to and what they should be talking about, we were able to create a strategic plan and implement that plan so that their blogs are not only appealing to human readers now, they're appealing to search engines. So what that means is they get found online. We're able to track which pages are performing the best. And we had 6-figure growth for them in excess of $250,000 in the first 6 months. And it was
for 6 months.
It was all because we created a plan and we made it happen. And that was amazing and super fun.
It's definitely amazing. Those are spectacular results. I think it's a little bit more than making a plan and implementing it, but I think you have some special sauce that you're doing inside of there. So tell us a little bit about who your clients are, and because they're a very particular size and industry, aren't they?
They are. So we work with clients who are mission driven first. That's the very most important thing. But basically, we work with health tech and ed tech clients. Technology being the driving across all of our clients. Most of them are between about $2 and $10 million in revenue, big enough to know they need content marketing and know that they need to be found online, especially in this world where, post-pandemic, and but small enough that they don't have an internal team. And they really don't need to hire an internal team because we can step in and be that team for them.
Spectacular. I work with a number of people who are an external something. So fractional CFO, fractional CMO, fractional CTO, and you are kind of like that content marketing department that is fractional, right? Like kind of lives outside of their organization.
We really are. And we are their digital voice online.
Love that phrasing. Just love it. Awesome. So I wanted to just talk with you in general about like data driven. And one of the things you said a minute ago that intrigued me is the idea of like, they didn't know which of their blogs were performing well. And so they kind of couldn't replicate that. Like, can you talk in general about how does one know how one's blog is performing, and how do you know what search engines like?
Sure. So yes, SEO, or search engine optimization, and SEM, search engine marketing, I think are, they might as well be Russian, right?
Yeah.
For people, they really don't understand what they are. And what it really is, it's understanding how to talk to the search engine so that they are interested in what you're doing. And really one of the basic things is that Google, in particular Google, but all search engines want to do something called EAT. It's expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So they assess your content to make sure and rank where that falls in that EAT. And to do that, you need to do a few things. One is understand the keywords that your ideal client is searching for. That's assuming we're jumping ahead of understanding who your ideal client is. Right. Then you want to understand what they're searching for. So the actual words that they use, those are the keywords and key phrases that people hear so much about. And then really answering with your content the questions that they're asking. So I never create a piece of content that I don't try to sit in the ideal client's persona and really ask myself, what is it that as the ideal client I need? And then answer that question. Because if your ideal client is typing in what is a content strategy and you're answering what is search engine marketing, it's not helping. Mm-hmm. And they're not going to find you, and Google's not going to think that you're an expert, authoritative, or trustworthy.
So how do we learn, Pam, what exactly our clients are typing into Google?
So of course we use some tools, and there are some software tools out there that help you do that. You can do that manually. One of the best ways to do it is simply start searching. Type into Google the questions you think they would ask, because hopefully you know your ideal client better than anyone. Mm-hmm. So if you actually type in content marketing, content strategy, or whatever it is that you sell, one of the interesting things is Google will finish your sentence. Have you ever noticed that before? So it'll come in a lighter color, and start to follow those. Those are breadcrumbs for you to follow, and then write those down, and then go to the bottom of the search, and it'll give you additional search ideas. Those are places to start.
Perfect. I love it. So that's the like free, almost no tools version of this, right?
Yeah.
And then what's the kind of DIY? So what's kind of like the next level of that, if we wanted to go there?
You know, if you wanted to go even further, one of the interesting ways you can do it, if you have a WordPress website, you can install the Yoast plugin, mm-hmm. and you can get Yoast Premium. It's like, don't quote me on this, but it's maybe $50 a year. Mm-hmm. And that is a fantastic way. It'll give you suggested keywords. So you can put in words that you think you want to optimize for, and it will give you recommendations. Same thing will happen on a free version or very low cost version of SEMrush or Ubersuggest. Both of those are good. Ubersuggest is owned by Neil Patel, who's an SEO, guru from a while ago. And he has some pretty low cost plans that has a keyword planner that you can use to find those. You can also use Chrome extensions and put those on your Google searches. And they're called, I think there's one even called Keyword Planner.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Mm-hmm. So it really would behoove us as the content marketer and marketer in general. I mean, honestly, content marketing is so much at the center of marketing nowadays that I have at least three, maybe 4 episodes about it already. So I love bringing in the idea of like data-driven content marketing, because it's putting a little more kind of like oomph or like the skeleton into this kind of amorphous thing that we're doing, so that you can measure it and figure out how it's performing. So I appreciate the tools, and if any others come to mind, I think it would be definitely great to kind of attach a little tool sheet. One thing I'm also wondering is if we go back to the metrics, like how do I know how my blog did?
So really the best way to do that is to log into your Google Search Console and Google Analytics and start tracking them there. So with just those and the new Google Data Studio, you can see what your content's doing, how it's performing, how many people are there, importantly, how long they're staying, and how many pages they're visiting on your website. So then you really understand what content is performing and what isn't, both for the search engines and for the people who visit your website. You can also use metrics trackers like Shield Analytics for LinkedIn tracking, and it'll tell you how many views you get, how much engagement, how much those views are worth. And all of those, the numbers can be overwhelming. People don't like to look at their numbers, but it really helps pivot a business because you know which stories are speaking to your ideal client.
Yeah. And I'm really glad you made that point, because I feel like, and I don't want to pick on women here, but I feel like a lot of times women, and especially women who are not like STEM, science, tech, or
education and math, or engineering and math. Sorry.
Thank you.
Right.
Obviously, I'm a liberal arts degree. I'm not a STEM student. So my point is, like, women who are gravitating towards the humanities may feel like a natural aversion for these numbers. And I've talked before about my client who's like, I really do better when I don't look at the numbers. And I'm like, no, you just feel better. But actually, when you look at the numbers, you feel very empowered. So I definitely encourage everyone to invest in this. And I mean, beginning energetically, like, I want to know my numbers. And specifically around business performance, earlier in the season, I talked about the idea of personal best. You don't need to compare yourself to anyone else. You probably don't get like 1 million visits a month, but how did you do last month, and compare this to like last year? So anytime you start tracking something, you have the opportunity to assess it relative to your own stats earlier. And that's when you begin to see patterns, and you begin to kind of be able to, learn something and notice actions that can come out of that. So I'm really just an advocate for women overcoming their reticence around the numbers. And in this case, it's easy for our eyes to glaze over as we're listening to you talk about these things. But I think the easy things are get a tech helper to install Google Analytics. And does Google Data Studio automatically kind of bolt onto that now, or how did those play?
No, and it can be confusing. It can. What I would say is, if you have a WordPress website, make sure that Google Analytics is on it, and the Google dashboard. So then you'll be able to open up the back end of your website, and you can see exactly what's happening, how long it takes to load, images are optimized, what pages people are going to, what keywords they're searching. It'll give you a ton of information. That's kind of the first step, and it's a pretty low tech way to do it. The other way is, if you really don't want to get on the back end of your website, I would use a Chrome extension. Like, for example, I know Ubersuggest has one, and I don't make any money from saying this, but Ubersuggest, puts it on, you can click on it and it'll run an SEO report for your website right there, and you can track. It's not going to give you the details that some of the other ones will, but it would be a low intensity way to look at your numbers. But yes, I actually wrote about this on LinkedIn today, because I look at my business numbers and my performance numbers every single morning. Because if I don't know where my business is, and I don't know what's working, and more importantly, what's not working.
Yeah, exactly. Like, don't keep doing things that aren't working. And how would I know? So you mentioned, I just want to pivot away from websites for a second. Actually, before I do, I just want to say, get a tech person who can help you with these things if it's a huge obstacle, because tech people are affordable, and people who understand these numbers and can put them in front of you are affordable, and you can find that. So the Shield app that you talked about for LinkedIn, this is one that I really love. So can you share a little bit more about it and what it does about posts?
Yeah. So what I really love about the Shield app is that it will you can customize it. I actually have mine set up to look over a year, and you can see how your posts and your engagements are working. So every week we look and we can see how many people have visited, how many people have engaged with posts, what the value of the comments that have happened, what the dollar amount value of each post is, and we can see trends. So when we look, we understand which, we being my team, I understand which posts and which stories really speak to my audience.
Mm-hmm.
And then I tell more of those. Right. Otherwise, I see people in LinkedIn and they're worried about what to post and they struggle. Like, I don't know what to post or write about, and write about what works. So if you're following your data and you can see people engaging and people looking at a certain topic, write more of that.
Perfect. It also shows things like time of day and all kinds of other interesting things that I think people ask questions about. And a lot of times the answer that you'll hear when you ask the question of like, what time of day should I post is it depends. And that's really frustrating. So I think a better way to approach it is like, try a bunch of stuff being tracked by the Shield app, and then go back and look at it and see what worked for you, because your mileage is going to vary from just about anybody else. So awesome. So I wanted to just zoom out and look back again at content marketing in general. So when you're kind of deciding with a new client, what, you know who their audience is, and you've done this assessment on their website, then how do you just crank out content consistently over, the year or two that you work with them?
How do we crank out content? You mean, how do we choose topics for
all the things? I feel like, it's okay. So now I know the words that I write about, but like, it's a big job writing content for somebody, and you're doing this for multiple clients.
We are. So we do a couple of things. The first thing is we have a meeting once a quarter and we lay out a content marketing plan. So our main focus is SEO copywriting. So it's really that marriage of that kind of science of SEO and the sales, the persuasion and the persuasive storytelling of copywriting. And we bring those together. We lay out a content strategy. So we have 12 weeks of topics, which gives us the break so that every morning we're not thinking, what should we be writing about today?
Yeah.
And then we just do it. You just go on that topic and you write what's in your head that day. I write a daily email for my business, and there, in truth, behind the scenes, pull back the curtain, there are weeks that I write it every morning when I'm drinking my coffee. But I know what the topics are because I've pre-planned those. Mm-hmm. It's essential to do it ahead of time.
The planning of what the topics are ahead of time.
Yes.
I agree. I think it's really hard to sit down and be like, well, what did I write about today? Because it's already hard enough to do that once you know what my topic is. It's like, okay, so my topic is keyword content marketing or keyword driven content marketing. Okay, I know what I'm going to write. Now, why should I write about that topic? That's already the hard enough assignment, I think. Awesome.
And I think we always tell people, don't overthink it. So tell the story of what's happening. If you're drinking your coffee and you're writing about it, write about drinking your coffee, and that's what you're thinking about. I mean, don't overthink the story. That'll make it more interesting.
Yeah, keep it personal and simple. Love it. That's how I write too. And I think the thing that you said, which is really important, is a daily habit. Really, pretty much anything that you do on an ongoing basis, like that on a regular basis, you're going to find is you start to get in a groove and a flow. And it's harder at the beginning, and it's harder after a long break. So really,
like exercise.
Exactly, like exercise. So what are the biggest mistakes that you see people making in the area of content marketing and copywriting?
The biggest mistake, I think, is people worry. Two biggest mistakes. Number one, they want to feel as if they are smart online and that other people think they're smart. So they want to use big words and industry jargon, and they're writing for themselves and not somebody else, not their ideal client. Mm-hmm. We really should be writing write as if you're talking to a fifth grader. If you can't make a fifth grader understand it, you're not doing it right. And then the other biggest one is people worry about it so much and work on it and work on it and work on it and make it longer and longer and longer and never hit publish. The important thing is hit publish. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's not the great American novel. It just needs to get out there and share your story with your ideal client.
For real. I've heard people obsess about this before and like, but what if I'm changing to a new thing? But 3 months ago I wrote about whatever.
That's another secret. You can and are encouraged to reuse posts. I mean, you can take posts from 30 days ago, 60 days ago. I mean, the truth is nobody remembers. Only you remember.
Yeah. If you've had a massive pivot and you're no longer that person, start writing about who you are now, because no one will remember what that old stuff was. If you wrote a few posts that were really successful and you really liked them, go ahead and reuse them. If you wrote posts and you feel like, oh, that one never really took off and I felt like it could have done better, guess what? Revise the beginning of it and try it again. So
do it again.
Those are, it's, I think people just get so precious around the area of writing. Like, it's bearing my soul. It's like, no, come on, it's your business. Like, let it go.
And less than 10% of your followers even will see the post. So
sadly,
do yourself a favor and repeat it. Yeah.
Exactly. And as far as emails, only about, you're doing great if 50% of them open it. So feel free to,
yes. The average is around 30.
There you go. So awesome. Pam, what trends are you seeing? Like, how are things different this year than they were last year or the year before that?
I mean, I think over the last couple of years, certainly the trend has been that all businesses have now had to have an online presence. So more and more people are coming on to LinkedIn and are really using LinkedIn strategically. So it's not about telling me what you had for dinner. It's about really building your business.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely a trend that seems to be continuing. The other thing is we've had real success with email marketing. So email marketing is kind of an oldie but a goodie. And for a while, people thought that
it's dead.
It's dead, right? Email's dead. We heard that all the time, and it's not. It's actually the most effective marketing channel out there. So it's really identifying your client, getting them online, building it out, making an email list and sending it to them, and talking to the search engines with SEO copywriting.
Awesome. Can be much easier than that. There's your steps.
There's your steps. Those are the steps. Do those.
Perfect. Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you for laying that out. So if somebody wanted to go and learn more about you, Pam, where should they go?
LinkedIn. Come and find me on LinkedIn. It's Pamela Parker Foley. You'll see that I'm a former attorney. It's in there. I think JD is actually on the back of my name, which differentiates me from other Pam Foleys, and or our website, which is aoucreative.com.
Awesome. Well, we'll put links to that in the show notes. Any last words of encouragement for our listeners?
Absolutely. The last word is just do it, publish, and then track the data so you know what works and what doesn't, and then do it again. Awesome.
And with that, we are wishing all of you a profitable and joyful consulting business. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. I'd appreciate it if you'd like this episode, and if you enjoyed the show, why not subscribe? Be sure to click the bell to get notified when new episodes drop.